Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club at Kerrville. If you would at this time, please silence your cell phones, as we have a full house and a great presentation today. But also check in and let the world know that we're solving all the problems right here in Kerrville, Texas. This time I'd like to ask Rosa Lavender to please come up, lead us in our invocation and pledge. We have a song in between.
If you bow your heads, please. Gracious Father, we thank you for another beautiful day in the Texas Hill Country. We thank you for the opportunity to live here in a safe environment. We thank you also for those who serve us as first responders, the military, and others who are in harm's way. Bless us food and to our, bless us food to, please, and bless us to your service. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
When I did this song today, I didn't realize that Dave Rittenhouse had already beaten me to the punch. And so I just want to let you know, I'm not trying to suck up to the president or anything like that. I figured this guy's doing a reasonable job and we'd sing about it today. The only hard part is kind of. In the last line, you guys said really fast, kind of. So there we go. From the halls of South Star Bank, right here in the Rotary President. He has earned the roll through lots of work for our Kerrville Rotary Club. He has led us through the COVID trials and we've come through very strong. He is tried and true and lean and neat. Let us give it up for Jeff.
Everything except for the lead part, I agree with. Thank you. If you would please take your seats. We're going to change it up just a little bit. We have such a large crowd with us here today. And I want them to be able to, our speaker be able to have as much time as she can. Families in Rotary, we would like to continue to pray for John Miller's wife. Also pray for Brian Bowers as he recovers. And how about thank you for a little bit of moisture we got yesterday and more in the forecast. So let it rain. It's supposed to be an 80% chance on Monday for our golf tournament. And you know what? I will gladly reschedule. So it's speaking of golf tournament, we are at 25 teams right now. Our cap was 20. So we are fortunate enough. Thank you all. Fortunate enough, we have a lot of members playing at River Hill. So we have carts, and that was the debacle with the number of carts we have out there. Veterans breakfast we had on Friday the 15th, Good Friday. We were kind of not sure how it was going to work out being Good Friday. We ran out of food twice. So that means we went to the Alex Tacos. So we've got the hat. Thank you to Rosa Lavender for getting us that. About $1 a taco. Then we had to go to Alex Tacos right across the street twice to get more food for our veterans and guests. So it's a huge success. So thank you all for everybody that took part in that and was there for us. I'm sorry. Oh. Membership. Goal was 20. I know we have 2 new members we're going to induct here in just a minute. We have another application that's here in the room with us. So thank you all for pushing membership and driving that. I spoke about the tournament already, so we don't need to go back to that. And Philip Stacy, do you have your pin on, sir? Oh my goodness. Tim took it. He was thinking he was going to get. Mr. Tucker, do you have your pin on, sir? Yeah. All right. We're changing it all up, so come up here and get your Snoop Dogg wine today. You think I'm kidding? It is Snoop Dogg. So. Thank you. Yes, I'm all backwards doing it like this as well. So it's Christy Vandenberg, you have some Rotary business for us. But I'm skipping all over the place, so if I miss something, let me know.
Okay. All right, for our guests here, just a quick explanation. Today, we're giving out some Paul Harris Awards, and Paul Harris was one of the founders of the Rotary. He brought together his friends. They met in his office, and then they rotated around, which is why it's called Rotary. But it was a group of business leaders that believe in service above self. One of the things that we do is we support our foundation. And our foundation is an international thing where we actually help with projects all over the world. Our big thing for the last several years has been polio, which is probably what most people think of when they think of international service, but we're doing a lot more than that. Water wells. And we do have a peace initiative. So right now we have a lot of Rotary clubs in Ukraine and around Ukraine that are really pulling more than their weight, trying to help with refugees and that sort of thing. So, but today we're giving out some Paul Harris Fellows. You get Paul Harris Fellow if you donate at least $1,000 to the foundation. And our newest Paul Harris Fellow is, which is why I'm giving out these awards, Mr. Jeff Harris. Well, yeah, he's probably your dad.
No.
Okay. We also have a Paul Harris +6, which means you would give $1,000 plus $6 more $1,000, and that goes to Mr. Tim Crenwell. And last but not least, sitting in the front row here, Miss Carol Holmes, Paul Harris +7.
Thank you, Christy. With Paul Harris Awards goes membership. And if I could, please, I'm going to invite Tanner Carlson and Gabriel Alonso up to the front, please.
You just asked about it, so here we go. Here we go. Red bags, and get rid of it. Well, I've been looking forward to this. Tanner, there's yours for you, sir. There's a 4-way test plaque, so you can hang it and display it proudly. All right. Another one for you, since you're transferring. He said, I need another one. So. Thank you, Joanne. Welcome to the Rotary Secretary.
Are you going to introduce some guests? Are you? One last quick question before we introduce our guests and turn it over to Rose to introduce our guest speaker is first and foremost, before the speaker starts, I've got to give a disclaimer, and we'll go ahead and get it out of the way right now. The Rotary Club of Kerrville takes no stance politically for Prop A, against Prop A. We are here today to hear the facts about what Prop A is. And if we have anybody in the community that would like to come to the Rotary Club of Kerrville and give us why they don't support Prop A, we would encourage them to contact either myself or Clint Morris. We're both on the Rotary Club of Kerrville's website, so we can schedule y'all to come in and speak. So we have the pros for and against either way. but the Rotary Club of Kerrville does not take a stance one way or another. Mr. Winter, did that cover? I want to check with you because you're the one that made sure I knew that we had to. So thank you. So, all right, Marta. And last thing, I'm going to turn. So next week we are having our terminal Monday, our lunch on Wednesday. The lunch is going to be in the gym. I was told today there is no Zoom capability in the gym. So unfortunately, if you want to be here and participate and take part of a wonderful celebration honoring our first responders, please come and be here in person, enjoy and celebrate, and thank the ones that we're recognizing next week for the job that they do for our community. Now, President-elect Marta, your turn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. So we've got some visiting Rotarians today. Paula is here with us. Yay! Kavanaugh is here from the registrar here. Assistant District Governor. We've already talked about Rotary International Houston. And we've got plans. Judy Eichner, you have guests today.
She can be mine, Judy.
Okay, great.
Negative.
Okay, Dr. Associate.
He is.
I think we have approved you, and we are going to be welcoming you as a member. Good to have you here. Let's go ahead. Do you have a welcome. You have a
Yes, I'd like to introduce one other working with our director, and so he causes things like that. He's helping coordinate.
Oh, fantastic.
He does a fantastic job.
Great.
He's also a proposed member.
So, can today Guy Ruby, Rotarian. I gotta say, it's amazing to look out in this room and see so many people. What a wonderful group this is. Thank you all for coming. With that, I am going to turn it over to Rosa Lavender to introduce our speaker.
I want to take just a couple of minutes to tell you a little personal story before I introduce Mindy. Doesn't have anything to do with Mindy. About 15 years ago, there was a little kid from Center Point High School who came to district Rotary interviews. One of the things this club is famous for is its youth exchange program. Kids from here going overseas and kids from other countries coming here. And of course, COVID has kind of put that on the back burner. But hopefully in a couple of years, we'll be back with youth exchange, and I encourage you to get involved again. Anyway, that little boy was my grandson, and he had a really tough year. He spent a year in Australia, in Townsville, diving on the Great Barrier Reef. And my husband, he went and got dive certified before he left, so he was prepared. He came back from Australia, mature, goal-oriented, and ready to take on the world. He went to Sol Ross and in 4 years got his bachelor's degree, which few kids do in today's world. He worked about a year and then decided to join the Air Force. And he now is a paramedic in the U.S. Air Force, spent 4 years in Fairbanks, Alaska. He is dive certified in cold water rescue. Think about that. And is now at Barksdale Air Force Base in Shreveport with his wife and 2 little boys. And last month, we received in the mail his master's degree that he achieved in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. So Rotary does do great things for youth in this community, and I encourage you to keep up with what you're doing with youth exchange, and when it comes back, be ready. Now, this lady sitting to my left, she and I have known each other for several years. She knew me when I was Miss Cotner at Tidy High School, when she was a sophomore in my world history class. So I've watched her grow up, raise a family, and become a very integral part of this community. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Mindy Nicholson. Use her Wendele. Thank you.
A few people can say they know you win, and if Mrs. Lavender would have said what I told her this morning, I said, "Good morning, Miss Cotner." We're back in sophomore school at Tiger High School Secondary Wendele. So thank you so much for having us today. What we're going to do for the next few minutes is talk about Proposition A that is scheduled to be on the May 7th municipal election day ballot. Before we get started, I would like to introduce some very important folks in the room that have joined me today. Some of our committee members are here today. To my left, we have Lane Guerrera. Sitting next to Lane is Sandra Yarborough. And your own Amber Thompson is over here. She's on the committee also. Your own Jeff Wendling is on the committee, but he had another engagement in San Antonio. Also joining us today are our two very important guests, our chiefs, our police chief, Chris McCall, chief, and our fire chief, Eric Maloney. So welcome to them. Give you a little bit of history about how we got to today. Back in the fall of 21, the Kerrville City Council appointed 10 community leaders to form a committee to study the needs of our public facilities, or maybe lack thereof, our public facilities. That group worked for weeks and weeks and weeks, had meetings, did research, talked to the chiefs, talked to the city manager, talked to people at large. They worked tirelessly on the good, the bad, and the ugly, maybe, if you will, on what we need to have, what we don't have for our public facilities, public safety facilities here in Kerrville. From that particular group had a unanimous vote that they would recommend to the city council to put Proposition A on the ballot. They did that in January of 22. The council unanimously voted to put the Proposition A on the ballot in February. So there we go. Now you know a little bit of the history as it relates to today. When we go through the slide presentation, we'll talk a little bit of activities before that. So we will get started with a brief slide presentation. We will open it up for Q&A with the chiefs and the committee members. We certainly want to answer all your questions that we can to the best of our ability. I must tell you that the committee that was originally appointed, about 5 of those members advocated over to the PAC, the Political Action Committee is what we are representing here today. There's about 15 of us on that committee. We can advocate for this passage of this proposition. City employees, elected officials, anybody that is employed by the city or elected officials cannot advocate for it, and it's state law. The folks that are on this committee, like I said, about 15 of us, we are not getting paid for this. In fact, it's costing us money. So we have all made contributions to get the word out, the real word out about Proposition A. So following the presentation, we will turn it over to the committee, for me, the others to answer, for the chiefs to answer, and then we'll wrap up with a few final comments. So.
Again, I've got a president-elect that's really good at running these things.
Next, look in the next one. Yeah. Oh, Mark's got it over there. There we go. Okay, can everyone see the screens? Okay, great.
Because then they can't see it online.
Our wonderful way of doing Zoom.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, this is today.
It's technical, you know.
Yeah, Mindy, can you hear me?
That's right.
Mindy, can you hear me?
Closer here. How better?
If you close the ribbon, the
So we
slide
are
will get
here seeking information, or disseminating information and seeking support for Proposition A that's scheduled on the May 7th ballot. Let's get the elephant in the room already identified. It's $45 million. That's a lot of money. But I'll tell you about the money and what it includes and maybe some of the stuff that you've heard that it doesn't include. So what would it do for a public safety facility? It would house the police headquarters, fire administration, the municipal court, emergency operations center, and a community engagement room interchanging there, training and education center for the fire and the police and more. And most and really important that we kind of don't talk about a lot is our information technology. Next. Why now? Because now is the time. We have, and I will take part of this. Years and years ago, I was on city council, and it's hard to make these kind of decisions. But we have kicked the can down the road long enough on this particular facility. We have decades of temporary buildings. We've done stopgap financing. Mr. Herring and I were on council when we had this term that said pay as you go. And at the time, it was really kind of good, you know, but it's a situation where we are now facing, and we did quick fixes. So if we don't do it now, look at the inflation we are going through, look at the interest rates, and our city is growing. We may not be growing as fast as some of our other neighbors in the Texas Hill Country, but we are growing. These are photos of our municipal court. Now, by show of hands, I want to know everyone that's ever been to municipal court. Now, I'm going to assume that y'all are visiting and your tickets. But as you can see, those of you who've been there, the photo, the big photo is actually the courtroom where our proceedings going on. When you walk in the door, guess what? It beeps. It beeps. It beeps. So the judge and the prosecutor and the folks that are involved are getting interrupted by the buzzers. So then let's just say we're all human. So we have to use the facilities. So guess what? The restrooms are right there, and you can hear the flush flush. It is not secure as we should have it in today's world, which is unfortunate. And if we go on to the next slide, our current fire administration, so Chief Maloney and his group are in a rented space. We have been renting fire administration offices for about 20 years at around $40,000-ish per year. Y'all can quickly do the math. The larger picture is where that's in that building. And that's because there are disaster supplies. There's no place to do training. Chief Maloney will tell you he has to go find a meeting room to do training or to interviews for potential new recruits for his fire department. And in the next slide, we see our current police station. How many of you have been to the police station? Good. How many of you knew the police station when it was the Kerrville Bus Company? Built in 1973, it was a state-of-the-art bus station. In 1994-ish, the city of Kerrville bought it and moved the police operations over to that building. It is a building that is served its time, and it's now time for it to serve someone else. You can see that the pictures tell a very, very telling tale. It is crowded. There's not enough room for basic operations. The entrance right here at the bottom of the photo is as secure as we can get it. And it's unfortunate we live in the world we live in, but security has to be priority. To the bottom right, that is a dressing room. That is lockers. That's a meeting room. That's a multi-use room. And in the next slide, we see more and more. There's an armory system. There is an evidence room. Again, trying to accommodate dispatch. Think about this. When we pick up the phone and call 911, we want someone to answer, right? And they do, to about 1,000 calls a day in this little bitty room. And then they disseminate it to whoever they need to connect you with. The chief says that we don't have a sprinkler system, but what we do. Because when it rains and they turn the ceiling fans on, we have sprinklers. But let's think about this. If there's a fire in there, evidence gone. Armory, oh my. So it's just not the greatest facility at this time. So what is a public safety facility? This next slide shows a recent build. We think this is in Anna, Texas. This is from our consultant, Randall Scott, who is one of those groups that build specific buildings like this for cities, counties, etc. This is not ours, but we wanted to show you a little bit about what it would look like. Maybe it has not been designed yet. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But it would be a common space, of course, for our police, fire, our training center, the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, and the IT under one roof. So what is a emergency operations center? If we look on the next slide, we'll see we do have disasters. It does rain here, I promise you. It floods here, I promise you. But right now, we're in drought, so we have fires. We have snowstorms. Who would have thought we would be in the situation we were in last February of 21, and just we got a little bit nervous this February. So the EOC, or the Emergency Operations Center, we have to have our personnel all in the same room. It is a catastrophe situation. We have to have the incident command staff ready, available in one room. That means not only the two chiefs, that means the city manager possibly, that means the mayor, that means the sheriff's office, that means State Department folks, DPS, game warden, that means utilities, Atmos Energy, KPUB. All of those folks play a part in this particular room. So we must have the bandwidth for all the computers. We must have the capability to sit down and visit with people as the press would come in, or at least come to the area to disseminate information to all of our citizens. The next slide shows some of examples from our consultants of some of these folks and that they have worked with, how the operations center works. Again, I tell this story many times over the last several weeks. Years ago, when I was with the city of Kerrville, I was the public information officer for the emergency management, and it's tough when there's flooding, when there's a 20-foot rise on the Quinlan Creek Basin that we weren't expecting, or there's a fire of 1,100 acres out of the homestead, and on and on and on. To try to get everyone in that room, we're sitting on crates, we're sitting on the floor. The city manager was trying to rescue people, and he was wet, and he was getting water all over the place. I mean, it's a situation where you really have to look at and see that it is needed to help our citizens to keep them safe and secure. So with this building, and this is not our rules, and the next slide will show you, we have to have something called a hardened structure. Hardened structure is kind of like a safe room. It has to be built so it will withstand any kind of catastrophic event. It has to have redundant electricity, water, sewer, Wi-Fi, everything that we would have in our daily operations, but it has to be protected so that if anything happens, that part of that building will stay safe. It can be secured by having planters around it so that we can have some safety with fencing and that kind of thing too. But that comes at a cost. We'll talk about that in just a second. So if we look at the next slide and talk about it, what does this benefit? What does it benefit the voters? It's the safety of any of our towns, cities, counties, is safe it's an economic development situation. It is a reason people move here. One of the reasons people move to our town is we need a centralized emergency operations center to better coordinate, as I had said. We need safe and better municipal court facilities. We need a locker room for the ladies. Ladies, come on, they have to dress with the men. Well, they don't dress with the men, but they have to take turns, And so we need those type of things. It's not a whole lot to ask. We need improved response times, and the chiefs can talk a little bit more about that. And then community engagement center is room. It's just, it's interused. It's in a multi-use room. So we're not building all these rooms. We are making best practices out of the space we can be allotted. We go to the next slide. We can see that if this passes, we have an opportunity to take advantage with a public-private partnership. There has been many thousands of dollars raised privately to fund a K-9 unit, which we do not have now. We used to, but there's no place for the K-9 to be unless he or she is in the back of the car. So if this is passed and the council votes to do this, it is already funded. That's another layer of safety and security. Another opportunity we have doesn't cost a whole lot of money. Basically, it's a sign. The safe exchange zone. How many of you buy and trade and sell on eBay or Marketplace, and you meet people to exchange your chair or your purse or what have you, and you do it at the Walmart parking lot? Nothing against Walmart, but it's probably not the safest place. And so this might be a place that we could have the cameras will already be there, the lights will already be there, and we would encourage that safety zone for folks to do that, even if it is a situation where it's a parental exchange with the children. So let's go to top cost. How were these costs determined? In 2019, an analysis was done, commissioned by the city council, and it was updated late last year with the help of, again, Randall Scott, our consultant, and the chiefs, and the director of our IT department and our municipal court. And taking, staffing extrapolations and so forth out, the group determined it was about 69,000 square feet. And you can see, I don't want you to read it, but hopefully you can see from the slide presentation, the police station would basically take the most of the room. Then you'd have follow-up support groups for the support administration, for the police department, municipal court, IT again. Let me just pause just for a second. IT, information technology, that group spends the majority of their time with public safety. So it made sense to the group that we would have it with public safety. And then fire administration, of course, municipal court, as I said, and a little bit of build out space for the future. So how much is it going to, how are the costs determined? And we look at the next slide. The group did a lot of research on looking at other cities and what they did and when. And they looked at the highs and the lows and what they did, what they didn't do. And they basically picked the middle of the road model, if you will. Not a Cadillac, it's not a VW Polo, it's the middle of the road. And you can kind of see the price per square foot on our screen here. And basically ours would be around $464 a square foot. If you talk about the total amount of the bond, if the design comes in and it is under $45 million, we will only sell the bonds to accommodate that number. But we will not go over 45 million. Would it be nice if it was under 45 million? But we would not spend more. You have things like land cost, the construction cost. There's cost to sell the bonds that we would do this summer if passed. There, as I say, land acquisition, and of course, FF&E or furnitures, fixtures, and equipment, large part of that. If passed in May, this is about a 30-month project. But the nice thing about these numbers, they are in 2023 language, so to speak. Okay, here comes the big one. The next slide shows the impact on us, the property owners. We have done a little bit of value home and what it would cost you annually. Now, I will say, realtors in this room, if there's anyone that can find a house for $250,000 in this town, please let us know. But we started there. It's about $169 a year, and it goes on up to the high end that we're showing here of $750, about $500. It equals 3.3% of your property tax. 65 and older with your homestead, it won't affect you. How many, the next question might be asked, well, how many people does that represent? It's about roughly 30% of our population is 65 and older. So 70% would feel this 3%-ish tax increase. Where's it going to be? The city of Kerrville, City Council did enter into earlier last month into a contract contingent on the bond passing at the over on Clearwater Paseo and Rio Verde, is it Rio Monte? Thank you, Rio Monte. Y'all know where that is? Can you tell from the slide? Clearwater Paseo is the street that CAPO is on, and the sheriff's office. And Rio Monte is perpendicular to that. It is 7 acres. It's under contract, as I said, and it will go forward if the bond is passed. Let's look at the next slide and kind of get a better idea of that particular property. The recommendation was 7.1 acres, and guess what? It's 7.1 acres. And there's a little bit extra in the overall budget for land acquisition, and we came a little bit under that, so a little bit of a contingency there. That is it in a 10-minute nutshell. I would like to ask the chiefs to come forward here, and I'll open it up to questions, we'll monitor questions. And I know we have our live stream going with our Zoom and so forth, and we'll repeat the question from the audience, either to the chiefs or to me or any of the other committee members. Questions? Yes, David.
When you say the IT department, are you talking about the little office there on Clay Street?
The IT department?
Right.
The IT department. The question from the audience was clarification on where the information technology is, and yes, that's what I'm talking about.
That city owned?
Is that office city owned? Yes, sir. Yes.
It would be helpful to see what consolidations you've talked about, but how much square footage is existing, how much of it is going to be pulled together and put into one space, the savings that are going to be done with.
For Zoom monitors, the comment was it would be nice to have some information about how much current space we have, how much we know how much we're asking for or hoping to design for, and the cost savings it would be over the years. We know that the fire administration is about 7,000 square feet. 5,400 square feet, and that's the rental that we're talking about the $42,000 a year. The police station chief is 18,000 square feet for the police station. And our municipal court is roughly
Between all those facilities, about 40,000 per square feet.
Did everyone hear that? So the total of the departments we're talking about is about 40,000 square feet. Yes, Jack.
Of the current facility, when it is sold, will the proceeds from that sale go back into the bond?
It could be.
If it's not happening.
It's not mandatory. It could be, and that is a council decision. I would never step on their toes, but it's not as we have are presenting it today. That is not it is not a situation where we're saying it's going to be paid back. That's their decision. That could happen, and we do. Of course, as you know, we own the municipal court building also. Yes, Roy.
Given the current growth rate of Kerrville, how far out are we projecting that this facility or this bond issue would satisfy the need?
The question was, given the current growth rate for the city of Kerrville, how far would this building, this facility go into the future? We are saying 15 years, Roy, but we all know in this room that 15 years turns into a lot more, and that's why we have the extra percentage of shelf space, if you will, planned for that type of growth. Yes, sir.
What's the total footprint of the proposed facility versus the size of the land you purchased?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand the question. The total.
What is the footprint of the proposed facility? The size of
How many square feet?
The question is, how many square feet? It's 69,000 square feet
and
on 7.1 acres.
how much of that? I'm not smart enough to turn in the acreage that you're going to be using, but how much acreage will you have for future expansion?
When the design comes back, we can answer that question. The consultants did say to us, to the group, that 7.1 acres would fit for that 12% expansion.
So with all due respect, I think you may want to consider how much space you have left over.
Yes, sir.
And being a little bit familiar with these projects, you need to have some amount of area left over because it never works out that way.
Okay, thank you. And you've got council members in the room, so they're taking notes. Any questions for the chiefs? Yes, Tammy.
One training and one facility and two EOC operations.
Okay, details for
The training for the fire department.
Well, the lights are
I'm loud anyway, but, so Eric Maloney, Fire Chief for the Kerrville Fire Department. Training for the fire department has been a challenge with us. One of the things we do not have is a specific room or area to train our personnel or get together. So we utilize Central Fire Station, which is a day room. We use that for up to 25 people per shift to come together. So they're at the kitchen table, kitchen counter in there when we have our regular monthly meetings that I have with them. So our training that we have, so we have to either break out sessions there into the gym that we have at Central Fire Station or out into the bay if we need some other areas. We have also worked toward a decommissioned fire station over by Starkey Elementary. That was Harper Station, y'all may remember. It's been decommissioned since Station 2 came online in 2002. And last summer, we had an opportunity to do some training for our paramedic students. We send our firefighters to paramedic school. So we have done some minor upgrades to that and trying to make it more suitable to do some in-house training. So we can do a small amount of training there, but it is a decommissioned fire station. It is only for us, so it's not something I can really bring the community in to do some of that training. So we have to go out. We use the library. We use the church. St. Peter's Church has always been very good to us. We find other places that we can get large number of our personnel there. So we're 80 strong as a fire department, and so it can be very challenging sometimes. So did that answer the training?
We face some of the same issues that Chief Maloney was describing in regards to training and space. Currently, we've just been received a grant for a de-escalation. Part of that de-escalation grant included a training simulator. We have limited space currently. When we get that simulator, we're going to have to, when we want to utilize it, we're going to have to put it up in a room, clear that room out, and try to utilize it, and then tear it back down, pack it up, and put it away, and reset that room. That really should be something that we set up in a space that we're able to utilize any day of the week. Walk into a room with an instructor and work through a scenario 10 or 15 minutes out of an officer's shift to be able to conduct that routine training to keep them sharp and readily utilize the equipment that we have. As far as the EOC, I know you'd asked about the EOC as well, our Emergency Operations Center. We currently, we kind of mentioned in the slideshow, when you kind of mentioned Winter Storm Uri and the challenges we faced there. Space was a tremendous roadblock for us in that we had multiple people in a room. We would all be working on different assignments, different missions, which means you may be on the phone to folks and 3 or 4 other people are on the phone to other people trying to make things happen. It got extremely loud in that room. It became very difficult to work. When we recognized we were going to set up the training room inside the police department as the EOC, we literally went through the entire department and gathered every dry erase board in the building to set up so we could start by hand tracking our resources and tracking the missions that we had going on in the field. All of those things in today's day and age should be accomplished through technology. You should have computers set up. You should be able to track real time where your personnel are, what's going on. But we don't have that ability in our current setup because we don't have the capacity to support the technology in the current space that we're using.
Thank you, Chief.
Mindy, I have a question.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have a question.
What's the current and future planned growth rate for Kerrville?
For Kerrville, and EA is going to help me with this.
Future growth rate over the next 15 years of the life.
We have about 1.5%-ish.
It's about 1.5 from a residential standpoint. Our business group is actually smaller. So we have about a 2% annual basis on business. But it's not that regional hub. So we like drive in businesses much more on the residential side. So we will start recognize that commercial building.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Charlie.
Anybody that's visited the police department knows that the radio system is pretty antiquated, and I know that's one of the things that would be coming in, but also the sheriff's department, I believe, is requesting new radio system, and so is UGRA. Is there any opportunity to expand that or work where all 3 organizations could at least have the same base unit?
The question from the audience is having to do with possibly combining radio units with police and county and sheriff's department. I'll let the chief address that.
Yes, we're currently in the middle of a radio upgrade within the city, and part of that is being able to bring in technology that will allow us to create conventional interfaces with other agencies in the area so that we can cooperate on systems and be able to communicate effectively. Currently, we have a lot of challenges if we're trying to connect with other agencies in the area via radio. We have some challenges with our current system. And we recognize that, and our city council has graciously allowed us to use some of the ARPA funding to try to fix some of those issues. And we've just started that project in the last month, and we're shooting for a time frame of November to bring that new radio system online. We hope to see some of the hardware out in the field sooner than that, because we can actually utilize that on our current system. And then once the new radio system is built out, then we will transition onto that system.
What do they do in the jails? Are they the same, or will they be incorporating the 2 radios?
The question from the audience is having to do with the jail. If there's going to be anything done in preparation of the jail, I'll let the chief answer that. I know it, but I'll let the guy with the gun answer.
Yeah, so we don't have any jail operations. That's all handled by the Kerr County Sheriff's Department. But they will be right across the street, which will make it extremely handy for us.
Rex?
Slide deck you use today, available to keep Kerrville safe, website or website.
Yes. KeepKerrvilleSafe.com is our website, and Lane Guerrero is our webmaster, and he can make sure that is on there, and any other information that you might need, including phone numbers. Anything else? Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
The police cars currently are covered in their station and overnight. At the new facility, will it be covered? And if not, what will affect the lifespan of that vehicle and the additional maintenance?
The question was about our current situation with our police vehicles. that our officers use every day of being covered or not covered in the new facility. I know the chief has his opinions about this. Again, the building has not been designed, but they have they have input from the chiefs, and so, Chris,
Yeah, no, I mean, the building hasn't been designed yet, so I can't really answer that question per se. We're looking at ways to make our fleet last longer and get more out of all the equipment that's inside those vehicles as well. Maybe in the future that becomes less of a concern for us.
thank you. Anything else?
I have a question.
We will stay around, the three of us and the two chiefs will stay around if you have any other questions that you'd like to ask. But before I say goodbye, if you look on your table, you will see this red and yellow card. It tells you about voting times and days, and locations. On the front, our early voting starts on Monday at the Gallo Center through May the 3rd. And then following that, on Election Day, May the 7th, it gives you the locations. What a neat thing about this that I want you to keep for the refrigerator, on the back, you have emergency telephone numbers. Really nice little piece. Hopefully that you have learned a lot today, and we certainly will stay around, as I said, to answer any more questions you might have. We are asking you to take your card, to take one for your friends, take signs for your yard or your friend's yard. We want you to vote. We want you to be educated and vote. That's all we're asking. So we appreciate your time very much, and we will see you at the polls.
Thank you, Mindy. Thank you, chiefs, for being here. EA, thank you for being here as part of it, as well as our council members and most of the running for elected positions. With that, if there's no more club business, kind of flipped around a little bit, so we're going to get out of here right on time today. If you would, please stand and join me in the four-way test. Things we think, say, or do, is the truth, is fair to all concerned, will build goodwill and better friendship, but beneficial to all concerned.